Stars. Yeah, these are all stars. So,
Right.
And I got some history, so I told you last time that I was going to try to find some history for the one I had last week. Do you guys remember what it was called?
Susan Square.
Well, besides that, the traditional name.
I thought that was the traditional name. Back in the 1600s, they were making
yeah, there's
Susan
Susans
Square.
in the 1600s.
Yeah.
Well, that one was called the Free Trade Bloc, remember? Mm-hmm. And I'm having a horrible time trying to find any real history on that one, but I did find a little how do you do to it. So I'm going to read this paragraph on this. This is from a Origin of Quilt Block Names by Penny Hallgren. And I'm going to skip down here, and it says, even naming the quilt block stirred controversy. A block named Whig Rose and Democrat Rose created a debate to which was the correct name. A debate not settled maybe even today. So that's interesting, and it's a beautiful block too. Politics and quilts continue to intertwine with one block named the Little Giant, being named after Stephen A. Douglas from the Civil War era. And then this is the only thing they say. They say the Free Trade Bloc, which has relevance today. So I guess it had to do with free trade and the controversy with the free trade. So that's the history on the block we did last time. I got all kinds of neat stuff on the history.
So you're bringing controversy in here again.
Why not?
Yeah.
The block that we're doing today is called Clay's Choice. And depending on the colors you do, they look a little bit different. So here's the pattern, and here's the one we did in these colors. So it looks a little bit different using your colors. Yeah. We did it this way here because we wanted the star part to show more on this one. And then I'll read the history, and then I'll show this other alternative thing later when we get to a close-up. But Clay's Choice, a lovely quilt block known by many names, honored Henry Clay, and he was 1777 to 1852, a longtime politician who dominated American politics at the state and national level for over 30 years. Clay's political accomplishments and rivalries, particularly with John C. Calhoun, as well as his multiple attempts to be elected president, made him a well-known public figure during the turbulent times prior to the Civil War. Urged by many to moderate his strong stance against slavery, he proclaimed, "I'd rather be right than to be president." So that's interesting. Clay's morality is honored in this quilt block that bears his name. With its variety of names, it has also been known by. This block preserves many of the issues and events of history. Other names for this block referring to Henry Clay are Clay's Favorite, Clay's Star, Henry of the West, and Harry's Star. I guess Harry for Henry, nickname. As many pioneer families migrated westward, the next generation eventually forgot about Clay, Calhoun, and the bitter politics, and this block soon became known as the Star of the West. So there's history. There's really neat history about that. But this is the block that we're going to do today, called Clay's Choice. And you can see we're doing a series with 6 stars, so that's an interesting star here. And we're going to go over here to, can we go to the close-up now? So I could show these.
Yep. Give me 1 second.
1 second.
I got it.
It didn't wake it. Oh, it's looking at him. Okay, well, we'll keep talking over here. We have the pattern here. And it's a 12-inch finished, which means the block all the way around before you sew it in. You ready?
Stand by.
Oh, battery problems. Anyway, here's the block, and it shows you all the pieces that you need here, how many of each.
Put auto. Good.
Okay, we're ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, here is showing 2 other ways that you can put them all together and have some differences. Here's the blocks put in rows, and then there is 12 of the blocks there. And that's really interesting. And then they've got the sashing in between. This one here, and what did we learn last week of how they're set in here? On point.
Yes.
Yes, so
Susan
these are
was
all
on
on
point.
point, and then the sashing goes this way. So that's various ways you can put the blocks together. Now we're going to go to the pieces here, and we will be you make 4 of these. So you have a 3.5-inch square of one color and 3.5-inch square of the other. And you make 4 of these. And then you make 4 of, what are these called, guys? Half square triangles. So you make 4 of those in the pink color in this case, and 4 of those in the blue color in this case. And these are pressed towards what? The dark side. And there's 2 ways to put these together. There's one way that's called putting them together as a 4-block. So you put, in the 4-patch, you put these together like that. So the half square triangles, and you got to make sure you put them together the right direction. Because if you put them together like this, it'll turn out some other block. Josh's block, right? But if they're like that, it won't work. So you put them together like that. And then you take your squares and you sew them together like that. And press them towards the dark side. So you make 4 of these. And then you'll end up putting all 4 of those together. So you have one there, and one there, and one there, and one there. So that's very, very simple that way. The other way you can do them when people like to do rows is you will make 2 rows like this one. So you have your pink and your white, and you put a blue on it. And of course you have 4 of these. So you make 2 rows exactly like this. So you have 1, 2 of those. And then you make 2 rows like this. So you have that put together correctly with the white there. And then the pink and the blue. Sew those together.
Okay.
So you have 2 of those, 2 of those, and 2 of those. And you will put them together to go on here. This is right here. And you flip this one right there, sew those together, and this is in the center. This one is what they call a pinwheel, obvious reason. And then you sew this one there, and this one here, and you've got your block.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So you can put it together 2 different ways. If you're a person that likes blocks, you can do the 4-patch method. If you're one that likes rows, you do the row method.
What's your preference?
I tend to like the rows because what I do is what they call chain piecing. And when you get on, go over here.
Jay.
Hi. When you go on the sewing machine, you have these blocks and you just sew and you leave it there. She showed us that when we did the video with Susan Quilts with Friends. You leave it there and you just put this back and it keeps sewing and you keep sewing and you have all this joined together. You just take it up to the sewing machine, to the ironing board, clip it apart, and then press it and then come back and make more rows. So I tend to like mine that way.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Cool.
Any questions on this? You guys are going to be able to do this whole quilt in however many weeks we take to do this.
The only question that I had as far as the when you're putting the blocks together, because you've showed us different types of threads before, does it matter, or is there a preference on the type of thread that you use to put those together as opposed to doing the overall like pattern that you do to keep the whole quilt together?
As far as the stitch length or whatever?
No,
Or
the actual, because you brought in some thread before that had.
okay. The traditional thought is if you have cotton fabric, you use cotton thread.
Okay.
And up until the 60s or so, that was true because the polyester thread and the rayon thread, when it came out, it was very chemical, harsh chemicals, and it would tend to cut the cotton and degrade the cotton, and then you'd have rips right where the thread is. And some of you may have a quilt. It'll happen eventually after 100, 150 years, things start, rotting and getting ruined. But the school of thought now is as long as it's a good quality thread, you can use the cotton-covered polyester or the polyester to sew it together. Traditionalists will fight to the, they have their own, they want to have their, they've learned, you have to have 100% cotton. And it does lay a little bit different. It gives a little bit more. The cotton thread does give a little bit more. And then there's the really nice cotton thread that's what they call the Egyptian cotton. And the Egyptian cotton is longer filaments. So it's cotton or cotton covered polyester or polyester. I use a little bit of everything. And a lot of the quilters that do the sandwiching, they were 100% cotton, nothing else. But they've come out with some really good threads that are polyester that, like, for instance, glow in the dark. And they want to use it on their quilt so it glows in the dark and they can see. I have one friend that did a really neat one that has Halloween-y things, ghosts, and he stitched in those shapes. But I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, because you had shown us the thicker, like, kind of dazzle kind of.
The razzle dazzle.
Yeah, so I didn't know, like, if for being how precise that you need to be with these.
Yes, you
types
do.
of
That would
blocks.
be more size-wise.
Right.
So you want to use probably a 50 weight, and you can use 40 weight, but if you're being more precise, which you do need to do when you're piecing the quilts, 40 sometimes takes up a little bit more in the seam. However, that said, if you use 40 weight the whole quilt and you have the same seam allowance, it'll be okay that way.
Okay. Cool. That was my question. So, Josh,
no-
you have a
Josh?
question?
No, I'm good.
Josh is ready to start his. So.
Well, we're going to have to do cutting before y'all can do the, cutting out your blocks. Unless you just get a kit and just sew it together and have somebody else do the cutting, which I like to cut. And there's people come in, I hate the cutting part. I said, well, you can pay me because I'll do it.
Yeah, that's true. No questions, Josh? I'm good.
No, I'm
Yeah.
good today.
And
I like it.
what I like is the fact that you can play with colors and just make it completely. I mean, don't those two look completely different?
Yeah.
Because of how the colors are.
Because they put the lighter color on the different
Yes.
spot. Yeah.
So the colors make it look different.
That's right.